read this theoretical perspectives piece. So, in this section of our analysis, we want to investigate the influences particular theories or theoretical perspectives have had on the practices, activities, and/or procedures used in the program that we're looking at. So, I gave you some ideas of things that you can think about. So, for this particular section, you're going to be looking at what I called the big picture of how your program is put together, and then you can look at some of the more discrete practices related to your particular strand of reading or literacy that you're looking at. I do want you to think about, what is the underlying philosophy of the program? Do you think it's based on a behaviorist or a constructivist philosophy or some um, combination of both? Are there strong elements of social learning involved in the program? Are the practices described in this program ones that we've read about in our Lenses book? So our Lenses book does a really nice idea in each chapter, really nice job in each chapter of taking the theories that we've discussed and talking about practices that are examples of that theory in action. And that's what I'm asking you to do in this part of the assignment. And so identifying those particular theories or theoretical principles. And so you could think about the models we've discussed, you could think about the particular theories, think about some of the activities and whether they're student centered or teacher driven. But what you don't need to do is you don't need to go through all of these questions and answer them one by one. These are just sort of the ideas or the things you should be thinking of during this assignment. So let's, I don't need this now, don't save. Okay, so then I've got this template. And this is what you're going to be turning in on the 11th. So your template will look like this. You will write down a practice, an activity, or a procedure from the program you're evaluating. You will describe what that practice is, what it looks like in the program. You'll identify the theory or theoretical perspective that you think underlies that practice, activity, or procedure. And then you will describe why you think this activity is based on this theory. So you're going to describe here the link between theory and practice. So I have done a few. So like I said in the note, I sat with my in-person class on Monday and had them bring in all of their materials, and they started working on this assignment. And so for me, what I could do is I got to sit down and see the way that they were picking out the practices. I got to hear the questions that they had about the assignment and about how they should think about the things in their program. So it was really helpful for me to see kind of how you're interpreting the description of the assignment as I'm communicating it to you. So I think that I have a much better idea of how I can clarify this, and I think going through these examples now will be helpful. So I have, let's see what I have. I have a manual here. And okay, so this is called, this is an example of a well, not necessarily Basil, but it's a anthology type series. This is McGraw-Hill's new Wonders program that's going to come out for 2014. That's going to be based on the Common Core standards. So I am going to take a look at this one. So when I'm talking about looking at big picture, one of the things that you want to do with your program is kind of look at how it's laid out. Um, I can look just right here at this unit planner for the first 3 weeks of the program, and I see right now that they're going to spend some time teaching vocabulary, spend some specific time teaching comprehension, this is third grade, by the way, spend some time teaching phonics, teaching fluency, then teaching writing, teaching grammar, teaching spelling. So when I look at that, what that says to me is that this program believes in or advocates the idea that reading is something that can be broken into a series of skills and sub-skills, right? So they're not looking at reading as a whole to part philosophy, they're looking at it from part to whole so that you can break all these the skills, you can break reading into the skills that one needs to be able to be an effective, efficient, and fluent reader. So for me, that strikes a bell that what I've been reading about this semester from a theoretical perspective, that is something that comes from or is derived from behaviorism, right? So now on my template, I would go and say, all right, big picture, what this program does is it breaks reading into this series of skills and subskills. So I put here um, that this program is offering a model of direct instruction of phonics, vocabulary comprehension, and fluency. When I also look at how this program is attacking the skills and the subskills, and I look at the lesson, it's a model of direct instruction, right? So they're picking specific strategies, specific skills, specific vocabulary, a specific element of phonics. They have a fluency focus. When I go into the lessons, I see that they have an objective and that they're following a very structured protocol or lesson design for delivering um, the instruction on these explicit skills. So that's a practice, activity, or procedure that I can select for my analysis. So my description, I want to describe what I mean by this. So this program follows a model of direct instruction in that each lesson has a stated objective and the outcome can be reached by the end of the lesson. It is structured using the elements of a direct instruction lesson. And then I picked an example. So, for example, in phonics, it does explicit teaching of a sound, connecting the phoneme to the grapheme, provides teacher input and modeling, and students have both guided and independent practice activities. That's a model of direct instruction. I gave an example of a specific subskill of reading. I've identified the theory or the theoretical perspective that comes from behaviorism. And then why I think this is an example is this idea right here. So the breaking of reading into a series of skills and subskills is an example of the influence of behaviorism on reading. Teaching these skills and subskills explicitly or directly translate this theory into practice. So that's kind of one of my big picture examples. So now let's go back and let's again look at the program. All right, and so I notice here week 1, build background. Week 2, build background. Week 3, build background. Right? I can go and I can take a look and I see that they are every single week building students' background. They're providing them with some vocabulary here. They are, if I go into an actual lesson, okay, so let's see, this is a unit opener, right? They're discussing the idea. They're reading poems with the students related to what they call the big idea or the theme. So they're asking students to list the skills that they have related to this theme, which is how learning can help us grow. So they're asking students to make lists. They're asking students to share with their partners. Um, they are using graphic organizers related to this topic. So they're doing different, types of brainstorming activities. So this, when I go through kind of week by week, this happens at the beginning of each week. So since I have been studying theory this semester, this says to me that this is an example of schema theory in action. Right? So my practice, activity, or procedure would be pre-reading activities to tap prior knowledge. So my description of what the program is doing, this program begins each week with some knowledge building activities or knowledge tapping activities related to the big idea or the theme of the passage. Students use semantic maps, have discussions, review vocabulary related to the topic. This is an example of schema theory. And then I can go in and talk about why that's a link. So brainstorming activities like discussions, webbing, mapping are examples of Themiscirian practice. The purpose of these activities is to tap students' existing schema and connect the new learning to connect the new learning to it, or to help students build schema for the topics they're about to address. So you see the difference here is this side is a description of the practice that they're using. Then once I identify the theory, I want to write a couple of sentences about why that practice is an example of the theory. All right, so I'm about at the